Hi everyone, my name is Ronan from 4-Eyed Foundry, and today we're going to be talking about cheesing the accolades for the 60 Eyes boss, the boss on Efurvo, the boss in Sanctum Anatomica. We're going to be talking about builds and strategies in order to finish this easily without breaking a sweat. But before we continue, I hope you press that like button and you subscribe for more content like this. Alright, let's get into the build. So we're going to explore the build with Protea, but it's basically just you copying this onto the other Warframes that you need to do this challenge with. If you check it out, it's going to be a shield build. So we're going to have Brief Respite and Augur Accord, just so our shields get topped up. Of course, we're going to have Primed Redirection because this build is very dependent on shields. Vigilante Vigor is going to be in there for just some additional shields. And Rolling Guard is almost a necessity. Everything else is just fluff. It's just additional mods. Whatever you can slot in there, go ahead and slot in there. But the mods that we talked about, the mods that we mentioned, they're kind of required. As for the Arcanes, Arcane Aegis is a good pick. Arcane Barrier is a good pick if you have it, but personally, I think that's overkill. I slotted in an Arcane Nullifier in there. But anything can fit in this slot is what I'm trying to say. Prime Sure-Footed is not really a requirement. It's nice to have, but if you don't have it, you can just go ahead and use Handspring. It might not be knockdown prevention, but it is knockdown recovery. And since we talked about having some free slots in our main mod slots, we can slot in Constitution there as well. As for the weapons, our carry weapon would be the Torrid. This is how I built my Torrid. I know you're looking at that Riven, but in my opinion, it's going to be overkill because you're going to have Galvanized Scope anyway. As long as you're aiming, you're going to be fine. This is how I would build it without the Riven. Yeah, see, Galvanized Scope, as long as you're aiming, you're going to be fine. You can use Primary Crux, but personally, I would replace that with Primary Blight. Your Toxin statistics are going to be important, but not as much as the multi-shot and the crit damage that Blight is going to give. For your secondary and your melee, that's not really important. We're going to go ahead and talk about our companion next. So we're going to have the Worm Prime, or the Worm, whatever you have, with Shield Charger and Guardian. Because again, this is a shield-dependent build. You might want to slot in Calculated Redirection in your Worm as well, so your Reinforced Bond procs, because it procs only when it exceeds 1200 max shields. It gives you Fire Rate, and Fire Rate is always good. So we're going to need Negate. Negate only slots in on Worm, and of course Sacrifice, because Sacrifice sacrifices your Sentinel so that it ends up reviving you in case you go down. And in order to help that cycle, we're going to put in Primed Regen and Restorative Bond. As for the other slots, you can slot in whatever you want there. If you don't have Primed Regen, you can also use regular Regen. It's fine too. For the Sentinel weapon, anything will do. I just slotted in a Full Clock because it's my most built one. Oh, and if you don't have a Worm, you can also choose to use a Vaska Kavat. The Vaska Kavat has Transfusion, which will revive you, same as Sacrifice. And of course, because it's a companion, you can slot in Restorative Bond there as well, which would help with the cycle between Transfusion and Restoration, just to bring the companion back up sooner. And as for your operator, I would really suggest that you use Magus Firewall. Magus Firewall is just additional layers of damage negation, damage reduction, I mean. So if your Rolling Guard is on cooldown, just go ahead and go on Void mode. Stay there for 6 seconds and then go back to your Warframe and enjoy that damage reduction. For our focus school, we're going to be using Vazarin, of course. And our carry ability would be Guardian Shell. So yeah, that's it for the builds. And now let's talk about the run. We're going to do one full run with Protea. This is my first time running it. So the boss is on Efurvo. Make sure you're solo and that you're on steel path when you do this. So the start of the run goes normally, just like any 30 Eyes run. Make sure to keep enemies away from the Vitrium so we don't end up wasting time. But if you do have moments where the Vitrium gets blinded, it's fine. Just clear them out and then it's gonna keep seeking. It's gonna continue seeking anyway. After that first Vitrium, you're gonna be led to another set of Vitriums. Here, you can choose to activate 2 at a time. Make sure to activate 2 that are closest together so you don't end up jumping all over the map. So just keep doing this until you hit 30 Eyes. The moment you hit 30 Eyes, it's gonna show you that red marker to show you where the boss is. Don't go there. Instead, pick up one of these things again and go to another yellow marker. Just keep seeking those eyes until you get 60. The moment you hit 60 Eyes, that's it. And before hopping in, make sure to call in some specters. They're great on the first wave, at least on the first half of the boss's HP bar, just as a distraction. They're gonna be useless on the second phase anyway, because they're just gonna get decimated by that point. So the Tide spawns in here. Clear them out with your Torrid. Make sure to stay away from Leech Eximus circles, those red circles on the ground. And just stay airborne for as long as you can. And avoid the boss's lasers. That's pretty much it. To focus on staying alive, basically, is what I'm trying to say. That's this entire boss encounter in a nutshell. Just focus on staying alive. If you're gonna do this, I suggest doing it with Protea first, because Protea gives you a lot of elbow room to make mistakes. Because if you somehow mismanage your rolling guard, your negate, and your shield regeneration from your sentinel, you're always gonna have your first skill to fall back to. And her skills are so spammable that your Augur Accord will just kick in, and your Brief Respite will just carry you through the encounter. If your worm or your companion goes down, you can always create your dispensary and spawn health orbs just to pull it back into existence, because that worm is always gonna come in clutch. As you can see here, I died, and after a short pause, it ends up reviving me, and that pretty much saved the run for me. Because if you die here, that's it. You're gonna have to do the whole thing all over again. And that's pretty much it for the 60 Eyes accolades. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content like this, and see you on the next one.